$900 billion. That is the number that just changed the entire artificial intelligence industry. Anthropic, the company behind the AI assistant Claude, is now valued at $900 billion. That is more than OpenAI, more than most countries produce in a year, more than the combined value of Ford, General Motors, and every major airline in America. And they got there in just 5 years. In 2021, Dario and Daniela Amade left OpenAI. They were not fired. They were not pushed out. They left because they believed OpenAI was moving too fast, too recklessly. They believed the most powerful technology in human history needed a company focused on safety, not speed. So they started Anthropic, a small research lab in San Francisco, with a simple mission: build AI that is safe, beneficial, and honest. No hype, no consumer apps, no race to be first, just careful, responsible research. That was the story they told investors, and investors believed it. In the first year, Anthropic raised a few $100 million. Respectable for a startup, but nothing compared to OpenAI's billions. Then ChatGPT launched, and everything changed. Suddenly, the world wanted AI. Not in 5 years, not in 10 years. Now. Companies wanted AI assistants, AI code generators, AI content creators, and they wanted them yesterday. OpenAI had ChatGPT. Google had Gemini. Meta had Llama. But enterprises, the companies willing to pay real money, wanted something different. They wanted AI they could trust, AI that would not hallucinate in a legal document, AI that would not generate offensive content in a customer-facing product, AI that came with safety guarantees. They wanted Claude. Anthropic's revenue tells the story better than any press release. At the end of 2025, Anthropic was generating about $9 billion in annualized revenue. Impressive for a 4-year-old company? But what happened next was extraordinary. By April 2026, just 4 months later, that number had jumped to over $30 billion, from $9 billion to $30 billion in 16 weeks. That is not growth, that is an explosion. No technology company in history has scaled revenue that fast. Not Google, not Amazon, not even OpenAI. And the growth is not coming from consumer subscriptions. It is coming from enterprises. Large corporations paying serious money to integrate Claude into their operations. Claude Code alone, Anthropic's AI coding tool, hit $2.5 billion in annualized revenue by February 2026. A single product generating $2.5 billion in a company that is 5 years old. Investors noticed. They noticed fast. In January 2026, Anthropic raised $20 billion at a $350 billion valuation. By February, they closed another round at $380 billion. And then in May, the number that broke the internet, $30 billion in new funding, $900 billion pre-money valuation. Let me put that in perspective. Anthropic's valuation more than doubled in 4 months. From $380 billion to $900 billion. The funding round was led by Dragoneer Investment Group, Green Oaks Capital, Sequoia Capital, and Altimeter Capital. Each invested at least $2 billion. The round was assembled in weeks, not months. That speed tells you how desperate investors are to get a piece of Anthropic before it goes public. And an IPO is coming. Anthropic has already engaged the law firm Wilson Sonsini to prepare. The question is not whether Anthropic will go public. The question is when and at what valuation. But here is the problem that nobody on Wall Street wants to talk about. The problem hiding behind the $900 billion number. Anthropic is growing faster than any AI company in history. But growing and profiting are not the same thing. Anthropic originally planned to be cash flow positive in 2027. They have now pushed that target to 2028. The reason is simple. The costs of building frontier AI models are rising faster than the revenue those models generate. Training a single frontier model costs hundreds of millions of dollars. Running it at scale for millions of enterprise users costs even more. The servers, the chips, the electricity, the water for cooling, these costs are enormous, and they are accelerating. Anthropic forecasts 2026 revenue of approximately $45 billion. That sounds like a lot until you realize they are spending most of it on infrastructure. The margins are thin, and as models get more powerful, they get more expensive to run. This is the paradox at the heart of every AI company. The better your AI becomes, the more it costs to operate. Every improvement in intelligence requires more computing power. More computing power requires more chips. More chips require more electricity. More electricity requires more cooling. The flywheel spins faster, but it costs more with every revolution. And Anthropic is not alone in this paradox. OpenAI projects $140 billion in losses through 2029. Google is spending hundreds of billions on AI infrastructure. Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, every major tech company is pouring money into AI at a pace that has no historical parallel. The question everyone should be asking is simple. What if the revenue never catches up to the spending? Because here is the uncomfortable truth. Anthropic's $900 billion valuation is based on a projection that enterprise AI demand will continue growing at its current pace for years. A projection that Claude will remain competitive against GPT, Gemini, Llama, and whatever comes next. A projection that the costs of running frontier models will eventually come down. If any of those projections are wrong, the $900 billion number becomes something very different. It becomes a lesson, the same kind of lesson the dot-com bubble taught in 2000. The same lesson the housing crisis taught in 2008. But there is another way to look at this, a more optimistic way, and it is worth considering, honestly. Anthropic's revenue is real. $30 billion in annualized revenue is not speculation. It is not inflated user counts or fake engagement metrics. It is money coming in from enterprises that are paying because Claude is solving real problems. The enterprise AI market is genuinely enormous. Companies spend trillions of dollars on software every year. If AI captures even a fraction of that spending, the revenue projections are not unreasonable. They might even be conservative. And Anthropic has something OpenAI does not: trust. In an industry where safety concerns are growing daily, where governments are writing regulations, where enterprises are worried about liability, Anthropic's founding mission of safe AI is becoming a competitive advantage. Companies trust Claude because Anthropic was built on the promise of responsibility. That trust has a monetary value, and it might be worth $900 billion, but trust alone does not pay for data centers. Trust alone does not cover the cost of training the next model. Trust alone does not generate the margins needed to justify the largest private company valuation in history. Anthropic is standing at the edge of something unprecedented. They are either the most important AI company in the world or the most expensive bet in the history of technology. In 6 months, when they file for an IPO, the public markets will decide which one it is. $900 billion. That is the number. The question is whether it represents the future of artificial intelligence or the peak of a bubble that is about to burst. If you want to understand the infrastructure costs behind these valuations, watch last week's documentary on NexusPoint_EN, where we broke down the $500 billion spending gap. And if you want to know how Anthropic's AI might end up on your phone, watch our series on Apple's iOS 27 revolution on Tech Documentary HQ.